Over the Supreme Court, Thirdway Alliance presidential candidate is expected to file 2 cases against IEBC this afternoon. NTV's Enoch Sikolia has been monitoring these events. What are the details, Sikolia, as we speak?
Thank you so very much. Good afternoon, Gladys Gashanja. Indeed, as you said, we are expecting Ekuru Aukot, the presidential candidate for Thirdway Alliance, to arrive here in an hour's time or so to file 2 petitions. One is seeking to the interpretation or clarification from the Supreme Court on who is supposed to be, especially on the ballot box, come the 17th of October. Remember, IEBC, when it gazetted the 17th of October as the date, the Kenyans will be going back to the ballot for the presidential election. Maintained that only Raila Odinga, and who was the first petitioner in the case against the re-election of President Uhuru Kenyatta, and President Uhuru Kenyatta at that time, who was the president-elect, will be facing off in the fresh elections. But Ekuru Aukot has disagreed with that. He maintains that according to the Constitution, this was a fresh election and was not a nullification. It was not just a nullification, but the election was invalidated. So meaning that the elections was to be conducted as if Kenyans never went to the ballot on the 8th of August. So he is expected here to file that petition. Another petition will be against Wafula Chebukati, the chairman of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, who he accuses of contempt of court. He says that by barring 6 other candidates in the fresh elections, the Wafula Chebukati will be committing what you call contempt of court. So he is expected here. Remember, the IEBC just the other day gazetted the 17th of October as the date Kenyans will be going back to the ballot after the election of President Uhuru, or the re-election of President Uhuru Kenyatta, was deemed invalid, null and void by the Supreme Court judges, who actually found that the accusations by Raila Odinga that IEBC conducted the presidential election that was marred with irregularities stood, and so they nullified the re-election of President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. And you remember that outcome by the Supreme Court has received lots of criticism from the Jubilee brigade led by President Uhuru Kenyatta. Just yesterday, while campaigning in Kajiado County, he lashed at the Supreme Court, where he maintained that actually the will of the people was thrashed by the Supreme Court, and maintaining that the people are supreme. But remember, that argument has also been criticized by a quarter of Kenyans, some of them who feel that actually the Supreme Court is a creation of the people, and the people who gave the mandate of the Supreme Court to the judges to decide on actually various cases, and the key one being the presidential election, and if a petition is filed, just like in the last general election. And remember, Wafula Chebukati, in his argument about insisting that only 2 candidates will be on the ballot during the fresh presidential election, he's maintained that during the 2013 petition, or presidential petition, the court ruled that in case of a nullification of a presidential election, then the first petitioner and the second respondent, the first petitioner being the person or the presidential candidate who files a petition, then the president-elect will be on the ballot during the fresh elections. Back to you, Gladys Gashanja, from the Supreme Court.
Yes, thank you, Enoch Sikolia, speaking to us from the Supreme Court, where Thirdway Alliance presidential candidate Ekuru Aukot insists he needs to be added onto that list that will be going for another presidential election come October 17th. Now,